حملاتی که فعلا طالبان در ولسوالیای افغانستان انجام میتن و کارهایی که اینا انجام میتن وارد خانه های افغان میشن، آیا از نظر شما این گروه کارهایشان چگونه است؟ غیر انسانی هست یا گروه تروریستی هستند طالبان؟ آیا اینا شما میپذیرین؟ و دیگه ای که در این اواخر آیا اجساد پاکستانی را شما کشور پاکستان دریافت کردن از افغانستان تسلیم شده باشند؟ نظرتان در این ارتباط چی هست؟ و با چنین شرایط نتیجه روند صلح را در افغانستان شما چگونه میبینین من حیث یک کشور خیلی نزدیک بر افغانستان؟ تشکر.
First, what the Taliban are doing or not doing is nothing to do with us. You know, you have to speak to Taliban about what they're doing. We are not responsible. Neither are we some spokespersons for Taliban. But you have two choices. 20 years, a military solution has been attempted to bring peace to Afghanistan, and that's failed. Now you have a choice. Either this American-backed military solution, you can continue, because if you feel the Taliban are not someone you want to have in part of your government, you can keep on the course of a military solution. But everyone knows it's not possible anymore. The second solution is to have a government, a political compromise between the Taliban and the government, to have a compromise, an inclusive government. That is the only solution. Now, what the Taliban are doing or not doing has nothing to do with us. All we want is that there should be peace in Afghanistan. Pakistan's interest is peace there. There are 3 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan. Almost all of them are Pashtuns. And all of them, or most of them, would have sympathies with Taliban. How is Pakistan supposed to check who is going over there to fight or not when there are about 25,000-30,000 people who cross every year, every day? They go into Afghanistan and come back. How is Pakistan going to check that? So Pakistan has consistently said that if the Afghan refugees go back to Afghanistan, then hold us responsible. But if there are 3 million refugees here, how can we say few hundred or few people have gone there to fight and their bodies are coming back? How can Pakistan be held responsible? There are refugee camps of 500,000 people. There are refugees with over 100,000 people. So how is Pakistan going to go into the refugee camps and decide who is pro-Taliban and who is not? So it's not possible unless, and let me just say the other thing, that until recently there was no border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. The Durand line was just imaginary. There was no physical border. So to stop, to control the outflow and inflow into Pakistan, we have built this fence at a huge cost to Pakistan. We have completed 90% of the fence now. So which, for the first time, you have a border fence. Before that, there was no border anywhere. Durand land was no border. So we are trying our best, but it is not possible to hold Pakistan responsible when you have over 3 million refugees here. What interest could possibly Pakistan have in a civil war in Afghanistan? What interest would Pakistan have in backing someone to take over Afghanistan? What is clear is that no one party will be able to take over Afghanistan. So if Taliban try to take over Afghanistan, it will just be an ongoing civil war. In the past, Pakistan did have an interest. In the 90s, Pakistan had an interest. And why did Pakistan have interest? Because Pakistan had this policy of strategic depth. What was strategic depth? Pakistan was always wary of Indian influence in Afghanistan, and Pakistan did not want to have a situation where it was fighting on two fronts. So Eastern Front, India, and then Afghanistan also became pro-India. So in those days, Pakistan did try to have favorites. They backed favorites. Now, and especially my government, we believe that Afghanistan can never be controlled from outside. Afghanistan has a history. Throughout history, Afghans are the most independent people. So you can't control Afghanistan from outside. So our government's policy is, whoever the people of Afghanistan choose, Pakistan will have best relationship with them. So we have no favorites now. We do not have that old policy of the 90s of strategic depth anymore.
میخوایم سوال داشته باشم در قسمت پروسه صلح افغانستان. این که پاکستان بارها گفته که ما در قسمت پروسه صلح با افغانستان صادق هستیم و همکار هستیم. پس مراکز مشورتی طالبان فعلا در قلمرو پاکستان نشان دهنده چی است؟ تشکر.
We have consistently asked the Afghan government to tell us where these shuras are and where the hubs are, supposedly where the Taliban are supposed to be. We kept hearing about this when the Americans were conducting operations. There were drone attacks in the tribal areas. Americans were, killing people through drones. So why didn't they spot this Quetta Shura and so on? Because we've always asked them to tell us where this Quetta Shura and so on. The thing is, if the Taliban meet within the Afghan refugee camps, as I said, one of the refugee camps is over 500,000 people. There's another is 100,000 people and so on. So it's not easy for Pakistan to tell them exactly, who's coming and where. This has been asked over and over again, and let me just, in the end, say one thing. The reason why 150,000 NATO troops, the greatest military machine in the history of mankind, the reason why they did not succeed in Afghanistan has nothing to do with Pakistan. It's exactly what the Americans did in Vietnam. When they failed in Vietnam, they blamed, some insurgents from Cambodia or Laos, and they actually bombed Cambodia and completely destabilized Cambodia. But they still didn't make any difference. We were told at one point that the Taliban main sanctuaries were in North Waziristan. They kept pushing us that we should take action in North Waziristan. Finally, after 4 or 5 years, Pakistan actually took action in North Waziristan. 1 million people were internally displaced from North Waziristan when Pakistan took action. 1 million people were displaced. Some Pakistani soldiers lost their lives. The whole area was cleared. But what difference did it make? This was in 2014. It made no difference at all. Nothing happened. I mean, it's not that suddenly the NATO troops won the war in Afghanistan. Nothing happened. So, this blaming for a flawed strategy, surely the Americans should have started talking to the Taliban from a position of strength. When there are 150,000 NATO troops, that was the time to talk to them. Talking to them when there's an exit date given and when there are a few thousand troops left, how do they expect that Taliban would now compromise? The time to make them compromise or a political settlement was when they were in a position of strength. Half the Afghanistan is in Taliban hand. Why do they need Pakistan now?
नॉर्मली मैं किसी मीडिया का जर्नलिस्ट नहीं हूँ, मैं सिनेमा से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ, तो इसीलिए हम सोशल में बहुत काम करते हैं और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ये जो रवाबत अभी तक अब ख़राब हो चुका है पॉलिटिक्स से, सोशल पे कोई असर नहीं डाला है। अभी भी हम इधर आ सकते, उधर लोग काम करते हैं पाकिस्तान से। बट मेरे शख्सी एक ही सवाल है, जो जब से मैं पैदा हुआ हूँ हर बार मुझे ये कहा गया है कि पाकिस्तान के पास एक परेशानी है अफ़गानिस्तान से। फिर मैं यूनिवर्सिटी गया और उधर मेरे को बोला गया कि ये परेशानी दाऊद खान के ज़माने से शुरू हुआ है। मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि ये कौन सा परेशानी है जब इतनी साल ख़त्म नहीं हो रहा है। थैंक यू।
देखिए, जो मुल्कों के अंदर रिलेशनशिप होती है ना, वो कभी भी एक जगह पे जाके नहीं अड़ जाती। वो चेंजेबल है, डायनामिक चीज़ है। ایک ایسی ہے کہ کئی دفعہ شخصیت دو آ جاتی ہے ملک میں، ریلیشن شپ بہتر ہو جاتی ہے، اور ایک شخصیت کبھی ایسے ہیڈز آف اسٹیٹ آتے ہیں کہ ان کی ریلیشن شپ خراب ہو جاتی ہے. کئی دفعہ انٹرسٹ بدل جاتے ہیں، ایک ملک کا ایک دم انٹرسٹ بدل جاتا ہے. لیکن جو بیسک چیز افغانستان اور پاکستان میں ہے وہ کہ دیکھیں ایک تاریخ ہے، کئی 100 سال کی تاریخ ہے جو یہ سارے خطے میں انٹریکشن تھا. یہ جو پشاور تھا یہ سینٹر تھا، کابل سینٹر ہوتا تھا، سارے سلک روٹ تھی، یہ یہاں سے سارا جاتا تھا ہندوستان، ادھر سے آتے تھے، پھر کندہار سے روٹ تھی ملتان کے ذریعے. یہ پرانی ٹریڈ روٹس ہیں اور پرانی ریلیشن شپس ہیں. کتنی افغان فیملیز وہاں سے آئیں، پاکستان سیٹل ہو گئی. میری ساری ماں اور باپ کی قبیلے سارے افغانستان سے آئے تھے، یہاں سارے ہندوستان میں سیٹل ہو گئے کتنے 100 سال پہلے. تو یہ انٹریکشن ہمیشہ رہا ہے. اس میں کبھی کبھی برا وقت آتا ہے، افغانستان کا انٹرسٹ ہو گیا سوویٹ سے پاکستان کا انٹرسٹ چلا گیا امریکہ کے ساتھ، اس کے اندر ہماری ریلیشن شپ خراب ہو گئی. پھر آئی حکومت، افغانستان کا ہندوستان کے ساتھ قریبی ہو گیا تو ظاہر ہے پاکستان سے خراب ہونی تھی ریلیشن شپ. لیکن لانگ ٹرم ریلیشن شپ، نیچرل ریلیشن شپ ہے ہی پاکستان اور افغانستان کی.